All right, I'm going to start with a roll call. Most of you have names on here, so I know who you are. Some people show up as a number or it says iPhone, so I just want to make sure I have everybody so Tracy's able to have accurate minutes. So I'm just going to go across my screen, and if you can just give me a thumbs up or here, and then those that I don't call at the end, if you could pipe in with who you are, that would be great. So Dave Dvorak.
Here.
Sue Shanklin.
Here.
Frank Rainbolt.
Present.
Dane Brunsheen.
Here.
Pat Loeffler.
Here.
Sarah Brown. Steve Shutt.
Here.
Dave Nicholson.
Here.
Justin. Brad Lang.
Here.
Jeff Portman.
Here, sir.
Joe Tercey.
Here.
All right, now I think there's, let's see, I skipped Chad Schumacher, I believe. Got it.
Lindsay Schumacher's here.
And Lindsay Schumacher's here, perfect. And I think there's maybe, then Tina Rustbold, I know you're on.
Right.
And then I think there's one more that I don't have. Maybe not.
John, just for your record, I'm on here twice, if that's helpful. I'm home and then Justin Schaefer as well. Sorry.
Perfect. Got it. All right, I have everybody then. So, Pat, I will turn it over to you.
Okay. So everybody was emailed a copy of the meeting minutes for April 6th, 2020. Has everybody had a chance to take a look at them?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
I would entertain a motion then from somebody for approval.
I'll motion.
Whose motion? Stu, is that you?
Yep.
I need a second.
I'll second that, Pat.
Dane will second that. Now it's open for discussion on the minutes. Any comments, questions, or corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those against, same sign. Motion carries. Looks like Dave, are you on?
Yes.
I am on.
You are up. Go ahead.
Okay, well, I'm going to attempt to share my screen and see what happens. Okay, we'll see. Okay, well, there's no sharing, so all right.
Hey, everybody who's not talking, can everybody put your phones on mute?
Yep. I'll try to share mine quick, Dave, because I'm a co-host, so let's see if this.
I just opened up. You have unlimited access. You can do it now.
All right, perfect. Let me get back here. Share screen. All right. Can everybody see this?
Yes.
Perfect.
Got it.
Perfect.
Yes.
All right. I'm going to go through here. The first financials you'll see here is as of March 31st. We don't have April closed out yet. So these parts of the finances is March 31st. Some of the spreadsheets we'll get into where we have Pepple and Save, those are as of April 25th. Sarah, is that correct? I believe. If I remember right. We'll get down to that. But so I'm going to kind of walk you through here into Save. You can see here we are anticipating we had a beginning balance of $31.9 million and revenue of $14 million, expenses of $18 million in Save. So we're at $36 million right now as an ending balance. And as of right now, we have our annual budget for the revenue is $20 million. And so far to date, we received $14.58 million. A lot of these saved dollars actually are our come through through the Iowa Department of Revenue. We get those on a monthly basis, and it's estimated. And then we get 95% of the estimation, and there's a makeup that happens in November of every year for the remaining, whether it's an add or a subtract. There's been times where they have had started reducing the monthly allocation before the settle up. And as of right now, our monthly allocation is still matching what their estimates have been. And I'm not anticipating anything to happen before the end of the year or any adjustments to happen. But our estimation that we get settle up could end up be a reduction at that point in time due to the COVID impact on this. And the amount of the impact on the SAVE funds are yet to be determined. It's too early to tell. The good thing is we have sales tax collections online. This has actually been a full year of that. We're in the midst of a full year, and it started last year, halfway through the year. So all online purchases are being taxed right now, which is probably going to help on the SAVE moving forward. And and then in Iowa, anyway, the recession, we're a little bit recession proof. I guess if you talk to some of the experts out there, we don't feel the impacts of the recession. I would say recession proof. It's kind of not as deep of a cut that we feel in Iowa, as some of the experts are saying. So we will have an impact to SAVE, but the amount of the impact is yet to be determined. We haven't received any updated numbers. What gets reported to the state takes a while before it funnels down to the SAVE reporting on that. And we're going to continue to monitor our SAVE dollars. But as of right now, it doesn't, the numbers that we're receiving today are matching what we are expected to receive. Do I think there's going to be an impact? Yes. To what extent is yet to be determined. Any questions on this before I move forward from this page?
No.
Hey Dave, this is Lindsay. I do have a question.
Yeah.
And I was going to hold it off till later, but since you brought up, I appreciate that you were addressing sales tax revenue.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a request that, is there a way for you to just kind of do a calculation, and we would have it for our next meeting, that you could stress test of how much sales tax could decline, and that we could support our bond payments in what's currently been obligated in terms of CapEx spending. Let me give a little background on why I'm making that request. I think I'm the only committee member from the original formation all the way back to Silo, and give everybody a little bit of history. When the Silo was passed originally, it was pay as you go, and so there was no indebtedness or bond financing involved on it. Then when the flood happened in Cedar Rapids, the whole world changed, and we needed to make changes, and we went to having the bonding. And I know that was a controversial item, and I'm just requesting that you do some type of sensitivity analysis so that as we're representing and being good stewards for the taxpayers and the citizens of Cedar Rapids, if you could do some type of scenario analysis. I realize that you don't have the information or the ability to project the sales tax revenues, but you could do a sensitivity analysis of just telling us. But I don't want us to get into a position where we in our oversight have been remiss in not asking those types of questions of, again, how much can the revenue drop, and that we can support the bond payments and all of the CapEx expenditures that have been approved by the school board.
Yeah, we can. I can do some projections on that and say it would have to drop by X amount before we would feel an impact that we would not be able to meet our current obligations that are currently there.
That's exactly.
Yeah.
I don't want you to have to do a lot of work. I'm not asking you to try to project what the revenue will be, but we really, I think it's incumbent upon this group that we be given that information in terms of a sensitivity analysis of how bad things could get, where we have not been good stewards in terms of asking those types of questions. So it's merely just a stress test so that we have that information. And if you do that, I appreciate it.
Yeah. Lindsay, one of the things that, because COVID has, really changed our world a little bit, and there's a big piece in SAVE that we have every year. We allocate $2.6 million a year for technology. Okay. And we are in the midst of rolling out a one-to-one initiative, computer initiative for our district. It was actually going to be one-to-one through the middle school, and like an elementary level is going to be a 2-to-1 initiative. Is what we were looking at rolling out. This year, FY 19-20 is the first year high school students had the Chromebooks. Next year, we were rolling out the middle school Chromebooks. And then we were going to the following year, we were going to start rolling out elementary Chromebooks to the 2-to-1 ratio. And because of this COVID, we are having discussions of trying to purchase all of the Chromebooks. We already have the middle school's Chromebooks on hand, okay? Because of the unknowns for SAVE, we are looking at financing options to spread the payment of these elementary ones over a 5-year period to make sure that we don't overstep our ability to meet our demands in the SAVE funds. If we can spread that over 5 years, I think we're going to minimize our risk, but also meet a need that we really need to meet, because there could be a time in the next fiscal year or in future years that we might have to do some virtual learning at home. And that's something that it was not in our budget, in our budget for FY for the following year, but I think we need to step up, and we're looking at probably $2.6 to $2.8 million to really get all the computers that we need for the elementary. But we could not afford to take that out of SAVE, where that is intended, all in 1 year, where that's been intended to be paid out of. But if we would spread that out over 5, then that's a little bit more bearable, and that limits the risk to the SAVE funds. And we would factor that in to the sensitivity analysis to figure out where we would be. Because our number one obligation is our debt payments that we have out there, and we got to make sure we meet those. And so I started looking at in 2008, last recession, kind of when we hit in 2008, looking at the sales tax revenue. It was really hard. That was different because we lost a ton of kids in the 2008 floods, ton of kids. And so we really could not use that data to compare with today's issue. We don't anticipate we're going to lose a lot of kids, but we could lose some out of this, but we're not anticipating the impact that we had in 2008. So that data, looking back that far, is not really useful information. So we're in kind of uncharted territories and trying to determine historically, to look back to see how things impacted. So we're a little bit in uncharted territories, but we can at least do some projections. What if? We will be fine to this point. If it goes below this point, then we're going to have to look at refocusing our SAVE dollars, or delaying purchases, or doing some things differently, because we don't have funds in SAVE to be able to meet our current obligations.
Thank you. And let me make a couple more observations. That back then, if I remember correct, in 2008, the state of Iowa did not collect online sales tax, so that would be another
correct. Yep.
Factor that complicates it. And again, I don't want you to have to waste a lot of time making projections that you don't have the appropriate data. But again, it's really to stress test giving us that type of information, meeting our debt obligations and everything that we've committed to in terms of that has actually received board approval.
Right.
From that standpoint, a question that I would have on the financing of the Chromebooks, and realizing that IT is part of all of the dollars also,
Yeah.
What's your finance cost going to be on that on an interest rate basis?
I have not even checked into that rate yet. We just started initial discussions last week and haven't got that far yet. So
the reason I'm asking that question is because not that I'm not in support of that, because the mission critical of educating kids is top priority. But if everybody can look on that first line on the restricted line of that 1.3 million, I can give a little color that was actually set aside for the geothermal if there was ever going to be the DNR requiring
reinjection.
And what I would propose, given that you go back to the superintendent and whoever within thought leadership within the district, and you guys, because I don't like the fact of having to finance anything more than we have to, because that was not the original intent of Silo. It was really to be more pay as you go, and but we need to be mentally flexible. And I would ask that the school district consider maybe supplementing what you need for that. Instead of having to finance as much, look at taking either that restricted amount for reinjection, because we've been going now for, I don't know, 10 plus years or whatever, and there's not been an issue on that, and we could always deal with CapEx. I don't want us to overspend our budgets in any way, shape, or form, but I also hate the fact having money that has just been sitting there idle where it could really positively impact the educational experience, and you come up with something that is so mission critical. And I just hate to think that we're paying, if you can finance for zero interest rate, that's one thing. But if the cost of capital is greater than what the bond issuance has been, then it really doesn't make sense for us to just keep that money there, because we could delay some future CapEx for what we were having for this restricted amount. I just would ask you go back to senior leadership and say that there was a discussion from this committee for them to make that consideration. Again, we're only in oversight, but I think that we need to be very thoughtful on all of those types of things.
One of the things that we're hoping that we can tap into as well as some of the CARES funds that we're going to get, but we're still waiting, and we've been waiting very patiently, and we're all getting very impatient because it's taken so long for the state to provide us some guidance, provide us the dollar amount that they get that's come our way. But there are some of those funds that should be able to tap into buying some of these Chromebooks, buying some of these hotspots that we've been doing. And so it would limit the amount that we would have to look outside of our normal budget to be able to meet that. And so so we're hoping that we'll be able to touch with that. I mean, because I would rather buy, if we can afford it and still meet our obligations to pay for it outright through CARES funds, through any other mechanism we have, I would much rather do that as well, because we're going to be Jackson out to bid here, hopefully in the fall. In December, January time period, so that we can. Then we would like to issue the bonds probably in February, and we got to make sure we can support that as well in our save numbers. And so I'm very conscientious of all of that, but also we have a need to get the devices in kids' hands if this extends into next year, or we have it in the future as well. And so not only are we looking at the initial expense, how can we continue to afford to meet that on a one-to-one basis at the elementary level instead of 2-to-1 basis. So we're working through all of that right now, trying to figure out, can we long-term support that, or are we going to have to get these available and figure out in the future, how can we afford this in the long term? Because I think it's going to be important that we have the flexibility to do virtual learning. I mean, I think people are very accommodating or understanding right now because we're in the world of unknowns right now. But if we move in the future and we don't have the ability to do virtual learning and we don't have the devices that kids can access or have in hands to be able to access virtual learning, shame on us, because we need to get ourselves prepared for that, because that's kind of the world that we're going to be living in. And we know that we need to make those investments, and that's something that we have to do. We have to figure it out one way or the other. So,
and in my point, I'm very supportive of everything that you've said, but in this oversight role, one of the primary things is from a finance standpoint and so I'm just letting you know from my perspective, the original intent was to be pay as you go on things. And so I think that's some dialogue that you need to have within the senior leadership of the school district, that to the extent possible, that to not finance anything more than we have to. And it's that balancing act. And again, I'm just proposing that you have that internal discussion relative to the reinjection reserve amount that we haven't needed, and it's just sat there. And that is something that could have been in the classroom, or it could have been in the actual building improvements. And where it's, to me, a little bit strange. We had a risk at one point in time that I think is lower. Doesn't mean that it couldn't happen. We had a very severe drought or something like that, where the DNR said, "Hey, we want you to reinject geothermal." That we would have to do that, but I just don't like the idea where we're outside the context of what the original money, which was the approval of silo tax, the penny tax, was more pay as you go, and to the extent that we can keep to the spirit of it. But here's some money that's just sitting there idly, and you have a very valid, appropriate reason for it. And I know we're not the technology group, but we're the facilities group, but so do that stress test of how far things could drop to meet our current obligations, and then also have this discussion on the restricted funds. I'd appreciate it.
Yep. All right. So I'm going to go on to here and save. Here's our normal report. This is as of April 24th, not 25th. I spoke there, April 24th. And you can see all of our, and this is done by building and by project and the expenses. So like I said, we're still going to maintain the notes that we talked about last time. And I'm going to go through line by line here, but I just kind of want to kind of review some of the stuff we talked about last time, that we're going to be adding notes. When we set budgets in the future, we're going to say this is the increase due to inflation, what the budget's going to be amount, and we're going to communicate what the initial budget amount that we had in the master facility oversight plan. So you have that information. So as we move forward. So in 1920, you can see all of our projects here are at 26 million budget, and we have spent 19. So, and you can see here, like here, this overall budget we were talking about, that's kind of what we were thinking initially for our overall budget for Coolidge. And so we're at 4.9 estimated for this year, almost 5 million. Then you can go down to all these other years. You can kind of see where we were saved for each of the year. 18, 19, we had budget 15, we've spent 12. 17, 18, budget 20, spent 16. And grand total for save through 16, 17 was 87 million. We're at 68. So $20 million under budget right now with that. Pepple, same. So we actually had a beginning balance of 9,735,000 and our ending balance of 7,307,000. So we are seeing our expenditures are at this point in time exceeding revenue, because we have these are all property tax driven, and we're going to get our second half of property taxes will be starting to come in. We do, the last tax payment that we had came in, we actually got some in April here. It was actually higher than, it was just about as much expecting. So we have not seen a decline in our taxes as of yet, collections. So that was a good thing. We were a little worried about that. So as of right now, property taxes have been paid, and we're receiving pretty much what we expected to receive. So that's good. Will that continue on for the next year? We'll see. So right now we have a budget of 10.3 million. We have spent. Let's probably talk about that. And we still have some property tax yet to be coming. So now we look down in here. Pepple projects is a little bit differently. We have this sorted by projects. Not by building. It's kind of in building order, but by projects in reality. And the list of different buildings are listed here. So, and you can see we have all the expenditures listed here and associated budget. This year, Pepple, we have a lot more notes because we were talking about the original budget and the inflationary amount. And so that you have that information when you're looking at the data moving forward. And like I said, 1920, those what has been spent, but this is a budget like for this tennis courts. This is a budget for next year. That's why the budget amount is not listed in this year. We do have some expenses that happened this year, but it was a 2021 budget. So, and you can see all the different notes here. And of course, we're still maintaining safety. If it's safety related, we will designate that project as a safety based on what we think is truly impacting safety. When you go down here, I'm going to get down to the bottom here. This is a lot of data here, but in total, I think this is like since it has started. Pepple Promise, we're at 23 million and budget and 23.3 in actual expenses. So, any questions?
No.
We will come in the future here. Also have a report just strictly on Coolidge. That's kind of monitoring the project itself. We'll actually have, it broken down. We haven't figured out how much detail we're going to break it down yet, but we will have, so you can tell this is architect fees, this is construction costs, this is, other fees like FF&E and those types of expenses. We'll have that, and we'll be able to report to you guys that on a monthly basis as well, moving forward.
Yeah.
That's all I have for the finances, unless anybody has any questions.
Dave,
Yeah.
we back in 2008 or 9 when we originally put the AstroTurf in at Kingston, we set aside money for the replacement, which we did here this last summer, correct? And are we setting money aside in this now for the next time?
We will build that in the budget, in the future budget, and say this is when we think it's going to be. Yeah, so it will be on. We're planning. We have the save going out to the end of save, and actually that document is getting revamped because it takes a lot of time to update that document because it went from 2021 all the way, and now it's 2031. So we're actually, we're putting it out there about 10 years out. We're placing that placeholder for that. We're not necessarily taking money and setting aside like we have for the reinjection wells, but it's on the plan every 10 years. We're putting a placeholder for that amount. So we know it's coming up in the future.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
So If there's no other questions, do we need an approval for these financials then?
No, Pat, it's just informational.
Okay. John, or it looks like you're up, John.
John, you're on mute.
Thank you, Sue. So Coolidge here, not a whole lot to report. They got started last week with the site demo. They'll probably finish that up tomorrow for what we call the phase 1 of the site demo. Obviously, there'll be a lot more demo to do come next summer after school's out of session. The building will come down and the old parking lot's ripped out. But the phase 1 portion of it, the trees, the ball fields, the playground equipment, a little bit of fencing. They'll finish up with that tomorrow. And they actually start moving dirt tomorrow. So they'll have a couple scrapers and a dozer on site and start getting to the site to where it needs to be to start footings here in probably roughly 2 weeks. So moving along pretty quick, but that's good. They've sent us a preliminary schedule and they're hoping to be done. Obviously, if things go well, and you guys that are in the construction industry know there's always something that comes up here and there, but kind of left them a month buffer. So if everything goes perfect, they're hoping to be done at the 1st of May with the building. So that gives them kind of 4 weeks there, a month until it needs to be done so we can get moved in so the old building can get tore down. But all in all, looks really, really good. Received their list of subcontractors and I'm very happy with who their subs are there and a lot of local people. So it's always nice to see that kind of one thing we've talked about in our office is a lot of the projects that we typically do are small and remodels and they're not really very glamorous and fun. So it's nice to see that those contractors have kind of stuck with us through that, kind of get a little bigger piece of the pie, if you will, on the new construction. So
can you forward us that subcontractor list, John?
Yes, I can. I'll make a note of that, Pat.
Thank you.
That's really about the update. It'll obviously get more exciting here as things start happening. I have a few pictures of the site demo that aren't very glamorous, but as soon as we start to get footings in and walls out of the ground, I'll try to put a slideshow together every month here and just kind of share what's there. And hopefully COVID goes away sooner than later and we can have one of these meetings out on site and just do a site walkthrough. But I guess time will tell and all of that.
That was gonna be my question. If we could have a site visit or something, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, definitely. That won't be a problem at all. It'll just as soon as we're able to, and like I said, hopefully that's sooner than later for probably everybody's mental sake.
The first of many. I want to make sure this goes good for you guys. So
exactly, and that's
awesome.
We've really reinforced that. Obviously, a couple of the design team are on here, and they've enforced that. We've enforced that with them. We've talked to the contractors about it, and everybody's heads really wrapped around that, and they very well know the importance of the first of many and kind of the public eye that's going to be on them. And it's a big deal, and we want to make sure they know it's a big deal. They know it's a big deal. So that's hopefully it'll make everything a little more smooth, and it'll be a success and continue to build momentum onto the next 9 buildings. So
awesome. Does anybody have any questions for John on the project?
No.
Okay. Looking at a future meeting schedule here.
Yeah. So do you guys want to just continue to do this the first Monday of every month? Does that sound like a plan, or is that too often or not? I mean, it's probably not. I don't think I'd want to go any more frequent than that, but I didn't know with everybody's schedule here, since we typically don't have meetings during this time, if we wanted to stay with every month or if that wanted to be changed. And I'm open to whatever you guys would like to do.
I'm okay with a short update, every month or something along that lines if there's something that needs to be talked about, but I would like to be updated on the progress of this first building.
Okay.
And we're not having to approve anything, right? I mean, it's more informational. So if we don't have a quorum, it's fine if we can't make it.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. And I
think as part of it, that continue to give us the financial update. It might be much briefer than with as you hear more information on the revenue side, and then as you hear more information on what the school district is trying to do on some of these extraordinary expenses. So I think monthly frequency, and the meetings can be relatively short.
Yep. Yeah, and then like Dave mentioned too, Lindsay, we'll here when we start to get pay ops and change orders, because on a $20 million job, we're going to have change orders. That'll be something that'll be monthly too, so you guys can keep your eye on the financial side of the new Coolidge project as well.
Yeah.
Good idea.
So we'll stick with the next then. Looking at it will be June 1st, 4 p.m. and we'll send out an invite, and I'll just every meeting going forward, even when the COVID stuff's done, I'll still have a Zoom option for all those, except if we do choose to meet on site, that might get a little tricky. I don't know if I can host a meeting and be there at the same time, but anytime that we just have a typical meeting, whether it's at the LSC or from the comfort of our homes, a Zoom option will be available for those of you that travel or just other work conflicts that you're not able to be there at 4. And I think that should probably help us greatly with a quorum for when we need it. So,
Good idea.
Sounds good.
John, one question. Is that
Yep.
new building at Coolidge a 2-story or 1-story?
2-story.
Okay. I thought it would be, but I've never heard. Thanks.
Yep. Any other questions from anybody else?
And I myself have no comments or recommendations for this meeting. So the only thing I recommend is everybody stay safe. I know 3 people that have died in this event so far, and that's why I'm keeping my distance.
Crazy.
So we have a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
Frank, that was you.
Yes, I'm sorry. It's Frank.
I have a second.
I'll second it.
Okay. Dave, got a motion to second. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for your time. Appreciate
Stay
it. Thank you.
safe.